Well, hello and good morning. It's about 10 o'clock in the morning. We're driving from, excuse me, Elkhart, Indiana, where we picked up a new RV. You saw it in one of the other chapters, a little Mercedes RV. It's an old people's RV, so it doesn't have any bunk beds, but it's got a nice big screen TV, microwave, oven, full bathroom, shower. And we had, we're traveling down 265 into Bowling Green, Kentucky, heading from Elkhart, Indiana to Tampa, Florida. So we had talked about mystery damage on a RV. Now the factory, I'm not sure they intentionally would hide mystery damage on you, but I'm not sure that all the people who put these together care. So any damage that you don't notice when you sign, before you sign for this vehicle, once you sign for it, it's all said and done. And I'm telling you, there's some weird stuff out there. I've had people tell me about the trailer tires that they're hauling as haul and tow. They're hauling the trailer and the trailer tire goes flat, but there's no way to air it up because there's no valve stem. And he takes a picture of, calls in, takes a picture of it, and finds out that, I guess, I don't know, for fun or whatever, but the factory put the wheels on, they bolted the wheels on in reverse. So the valve stems on the inside, it doesn't show. The factory said, look on the back side of the tire and see if you don't see a valve stem, which they did, which put the tire in the wrong spot as far as the offset. So when it hit a bump, it did scrub on the side and cause some damage underneath. But the driver already signed for it. Now he did kind of get out of that mess with a new tire, and he changed the tires on the rest of the trailer so that they were correct. Because there's no way a driver's going to put a tire on backwards that I can think of. Anyway, let me tell you the story of going up into Quebec City, Quebec. I'm taking a unit up to Quebec, and it's about a $600,000 diesel pusher. Really nice unit, it's got everything on it. It's going up for a show up there. So it's a good medium, lower end quality RV. It's got Italian glove leather seats that are white glove leather, just like this one that I'm driving now. So I cover them with a towel so that I don't get them dirty and scuff them up. I get up to Quebec City, and they jerk me around waiting to inspect it because there was two other people in front of me. They go to lunch, so I'm there 5 hours trying to get the heck out of Quebec. I'm not a big fan on taking RVs into Canada to begin with, but this, I needed to get up there to visit family, and the money looked good at the time. Anyway, the guy that was inspecting the vehicles would not let me in the vehicle while he was being inspected. You see, you own that vehicle and are responsible for it until he signs for it. So there isn't any inspector on this planet can force you to stay out of that vehicle while they inspect it, because you don't know what he's going to do. Well, anyway, so like a damn fool, and sort of my earlier days in RV transporting, and I believed him. So I stayed up, went, sat in a chair and did my paperwork and whatever. He got done inspecting the vehicle and brings the paperwork into the service bay, and he just pops it underneath my nose and says, here, sign for this, I'll get you a carbon copy and you can be on your way. I look on there, and in big letters it says driver damaged driver seat. I go, and you've got to read these things because they'll try to slide them by you so you sign for them. Now once he signed for it and you signed for it, it's all done. The damage is done and you owe for whatever it is. If it says no driver damage, you're in free and clear. If it says driver damage, that's the time before you sign it, and the only time you have to argue what's going on. I said, wait a minute. There's no driver damage on that seat. And he comes up and he says, oh yes there is. There's a good 3/4 inch blue pen mark right on the seat, very visible. You must have had a blue pen in your pocket. Now, I inspected that driver's seat because that's one of the first places they go to inspect the coach, to see if it's got a rip, a tear, a scuff, a dirt mark, or whatever, or a pen mark. I go in there and I said, I didn't put that pen mark on there. I don't even own a blue pen. And he goes, well, it's from the factory then, because I found it, and here's a picture of it. I'm going to submit it to the factory. So I said, well, what if I went, let me talk to the manager. I talked to the manager, service manager, and I said that blue pen was not, mark was not on there. I don't own a blue pen. And he says, well, we're going to have to get a leather expert in there to resurface that entire seat. That's going to be $400, or it's $1,200 to replace the seat. It was a real high-end electric everything seat. And I said, listen, I'm just a driver. I don't make $400. What's it going to take to make that pen mark disappear? Because I know you're just going to take some lacquer thinner on a paper towel and it'll wipe right off of there. And I said, in fact, I'll go out and do it right now. He says, no, we've already identified the damage. Let me talk to the general manager of the thing. He comes out, the general manager, and says, listen, you know, we understand you drivers have a tough life and whatever. We'll make that pen mark disappear for $100 in cash. Well, at the time, it's $400, $1,200, or $100 in cash. I just want to get the heck out of Quebec. So I paid him the $100, and I says, I want a receipt. The man pulls out a receipt book from underneath the desk. It's not the receipt with the letterhead of the company on it. It's just a blank, ordinary receipt book you'd buy at any office supply store. And he writes me out a receipt for damage on a driver's seat for $100 in blue ink. And I said, there's where the blue ink came from. He said, no, I just picked this pen up. I never used this pen. And he gave me a receipt in blue ink. My point to the story is, do not let anybody talk you out of following that idiot around when he inspects. And if he inspects it and finds any certain spot that he's taking pictures of, you want to be standing there to make sure that it's no driver damage. You aren't going to get to argue with him right then, but you will get to argue with him before you sign off and leave that place, and that's the only time, because all the stuff that's written on that sheet, they're going to try to get it out of your pocket first if they can prove that the driver did the damage. Now that's one story. Another story, I'm coming back to the factory in Elkhart with a customer complaint. He's got a serious transmission problem, and you literally have to take that crazy RV apart to get to the transmission motor with what they have to do to it. So the dealer cannot handle that type of thing. They bring it back to the factory. The customer, real nice guy, he just, got a bad transmission, but he loved the RV, and they weren't going to replace it. They were going to replace the transmission. So back to the factory I come out of Maine, just below Bangor, Maine. Drive it all the way back. You don't get hardly any money. You barely get gas money, but I wanted to get back to the factory to get another new unit. So with returns, on customer returns, you don't get anything, just enough to cover your gas money. So I says, well, it's gas money. So I bring it back. The guy inspects it all over. He comes up and he says, okay, $2,500 dealer damage. And I was, what? And he says, $2,500 dealer damage. We have to replace the entire left driver panel, lower panel, and the rear, below the back, behind the back tire. And I went, wait a minute. There's no damage there. So we go out and look, and the back panel curves underneath as it comes down the side. It's straight down, curves underneath, and there's like where it curves underneath for about 4.5, 5 inches. There is one hell of a scratch and a dent where somebody has driven that thing over, either high-sided on the curb or going in and out of a shopping center or something and hit bottom. But they hit bottom right on this flimsy sheet metal and took the paint right off it and probably put a 1/2 inch dent, almost the full length of that panel. So I went, wait a minute. I've been on the interstate all the way from Bangor, Maine. I have not driven it in and out of any shopping centers or truck stops. It's all been interstate, flat running. I did not do this. And they said, well, you signed for it with the customer saying you inspected it. Now we found the damage and you still are responsible. Well, I didn't make $2,500 on this. I made $280 or so. So I turn around and I just don't know what to do. I'm stuck. But you remember I said you've got to take a deep breath and give your brain a chance to think this over? I sit down and they're writing up the bill, and they're going to bill me and take it out of my pay, out of the next 10 vehicles or something delivered, which makes me drive the next 10 vehicles almost for free. I sit down, take a deep breath, and I'm considering mass execution of everybody in that building, or try to figure this out. I come up with the idea to call the customer. And as I'm calling the customer, the service guy says, what are you doing? I said, I'm calling the customer. You can't do that. I'm not on your payroll. I can do any damn thing I want to. But he gets snarly with me, so I just walk out of the building, call the customer, and I said, listen, they're going to charge me damage on this brand new unit of a scratch. And he says, yeah, it's under the driver's side right behind the wheel, right? And I says, why, yes, it is. And he says, yeah, I did that. I've got a daggum hump as I come over my driveway. I've got this extra hump in the middle of the driveway. I was too lazy to smooth out before I bought the RV. And that darn thing, when I bring it up the driveway and over the hump, it bumps right there and the RV scrapes against the bottom. And if you look at that scratch, it's been done more than once, or twice. So I says, man, they're going to charge me $2,500 to replace that whole panel. And he says, well, you can't even see the scratch or the dent. Even standing beside the RV, you got to be laying on the ground. He says, I don't give two beans about that scratch. I said, well, can you call this serviceman or talk to him? And he says, I'd be glad to. Well, I got off the hook on that one, but buddy, I'm telling you, it was a close damn call. That customer, there's no reason that customer had to stick behind me and admit to that dent. But he'd have got a free panel from me. He'd have got that for free from the factory, because they're not going to let it back out until it's A1, 100% in their book. Whether the work's been done or not, it doesn't matter. It's a matter of who gets robbed for the money. My point is, this is a very high-risk business. It's part of what I like about it, because it keeps you on your toes the entire time. But the biggest disappointments are going to be on just like a jet airplane ride, on the takeoff and the landing. And you want to make sure you learn to slow down to a crawl when you're leaving and when you're just about to arrive. Stop and look it over and think about it. Do not stop and let me put it this way. If you stop before you deliver and you find damage, do not deliver that unit, because I guarantee a flea pooping on the side of the panel and they find it's going to cost you $1,000. So I will teach you to either repair or hide the damage, whatever you can do. But don't turn that daggum thing in until you've done it. If you have to make up an excuse that your tow car broke down, or you got food poisoning or something, you're going to be a half a day late, spend the extra time and money to repair the damage or hide it. And I'm telling you, it'll save you that first $1,000 every day of the week.